Welcome, cycling fans. I hope you're enjoying all the amazing guests that I've been bringing you on the podcast to date. And before we get started, I want to share with you an amazing way that you can coach with me this winter. So if you've been liking all my coaching segments, you're going to love this program. So it's my 16-week online winter road cycling training program. Say that 10 times fast. So I've been doing this program for over 15 years. It's been usually local, but now it's online, which is even more amazing because I can impact more cyclists this way than in studio. The way it works is you're going to learn valuable cycling skills, such as, have you ever asked yourself, first of all, how can I become a create a more smooth pedal stroke? Like, what are the 4 quadrants all these people have been talking about? And how can I get stronger on the hills? So here's the thing. It really comes down to the fundamentals and the basics skills of cycling, which when you get on your bike, you know nothing about. Now this is that, and that's what I'm going to drill into you over 16 weeks. So when you finish, you are going to know how to create a smooth pedal stroke and be more efficient. You're going to be climbing hills with much better technique. You're going to be building your sprint base, and your endurance base is going to be much stronger. Now, I have a special code for you. It's podcast in all uppercase to get $50 off either the VIP or the basic program. Now, go to this website to check out what the differences are. Basically, the VIP is a much greater coaching program. So if you want more personalized coaching, goal setting, and we have a reported 5 to 20% increase in fitness. Can you imagine starting your spring with that kind of increase based on last year? So it's 16wkroadcycling.ca. So that's 16wkroadcycling.ca and use the code podcast to get $50 off. And if you have questions, just email me. I'd love to answer them. And I hope and look forward to coaching you to become better on the bike. I hope you enjoy the next episode. Have an amazing day. All right, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie. And I have an amazing lady on as a guest today, and she is not from the cycling world. However, as you know, I've reviewed and I've interviewed quite a few authors of cycling related books. And this is where Miriam Laundry comes in. She's a fellow Canadian from Niagara region. And she is a publisher. She just started her company. She is the founder of Miriam Laundry Publishing, the author of 5 best-selling and award-winning children's books. So not adult books, but children's books. So you parents, I want you to slide to the end of your chair and listen. Or even if you're somebody who has a great cycling journey that you're thinking about publishing or putting on paper, Miriam can talk. She specializes in kids' books. However, publishing is publishing, right? And so Miriam has award-winning children's books and is a Guinness World Record holder, is a dedicated businesswoman, caring mother, and passionate supporter of those chasing their dreams. I'm super excited. And also, before she comes out, how did I meet her? Again, I've mentioned this mastermind program that I have been in for the last 6 months. Miriam was in there. She was one of the ladies in my group, and we've had the pleasure of being in working groups on calls, and I'm so excited to bring her on the podcast. Welcome, Miriam.
Hi, Sylvie. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to get started. We have quite a few talking notes to target, but tell me how you got into your passion of publishing.
Yes. Okay. So this brings me back to 2012. 2012 was the year my youngest son was born. I have 4. Lucas was born, and the following day.
You have a Lucas too?
I do, a
So do I.
9-year-old. How old is yours?
9.
That's interesting. Yes.
When was he born?
June 12th.
Okay, February 19th. That would have been really funny. Sorry.
Yes. It must have been a popular name that year.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So that great I mean the birth of Lucas was amazing, but the following day our family received tragedy, horrible news. We lost my niece to suicide. She was 17. And this just I mean it was so hard for the whole family. I mean I can only speak for myself. It was really difficult for me because I was still in the hospital with my fourth child. It was the only child for my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. So it just it just really affected me. So probably 5, 6 weeks later, my husband noticed I was not in a good place. So he suggested I attend a self-esteem seminar, a conference put on by Jack
Mhm.
Canfield. So we had been to it the year before. So I went, and it was an amazing week, right? 300 people all learning how to believe in themselves, how to take responsibility for their lives, how to set goals, all that wonderful stuff. And I
Yeah.
just kept thinking, I wish my niece would have learned this when she was younger. I wish my kids would have learned this. Where would my life be had I learned those amazing,
Hmm.
I mean, just principles about
Yeah.
life? So on the flight home, I wanted to get home and teach my kids something that I had learned. And I thought I just can't go home and be mom, you know, hitting them over the head with the
You're
with
so
the
good. Yeah,
message.
yeah.
Yeah, or like telling them this is what you have to do with your life. I couldn't do
Mm.
that. So I thought I'm going to put it into a story. And that's when I wrote my first book. It's called I Can Believe in Myself. And I took a little bit about what I had learned, and it's about letting go of the word can't and switching it to I
Mm.
can. I thought if children can learn at an early age that they can do things, that they can go for their dreams or for something that seems scary, and then maybe they can overcome those tough days.
Right.
That was all I kept thinking about. So I published the first book. I self-published 3 in the I Can series, and then later went on to publish
Do you
traditionally.
have them in front of you?
I do.
Your I
Well, these
can
are,
series. Oh, look at
yes,
them. These
yeah.
are
So
amazing.
these
You
are,
guys, if you're listening to this, it's good. There, the link is above. You can jump right onto YouTube and actually look at some of the book, because I know Miriam's going to be showing us more, but
mhm.
those are great looking books.
Yes,
Can-
thank you. So I went from self-published to then
Mhm.
I actually emailed Jack Canfield. So Jack Canfield is the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series and has,
Great.
I think, 250 books out in print. And I asked him to co-author my fourth book. So with that, we went the traditional route and we have published 2 together. So I can share perspective on both self-publishing and traditionally publishing books.
Well, let's which was the one that you and Jack published together?
It's these 2. So basically, my first book was I Can Believe in Myself, and it was purchased, it was taken on by a publisher, and this one is the redone version that you're looking at. So I Can Believe in Myself and The Big Bad Bully are co-authored with Jack Canfield.
Sorry, you froze. I don't know what you said. Oh, okay. Our internet is kind of wonky. If this happens again, what we'll do is we'll just remove our videos,
Okay.
and then that should stabilize. So what was the book that you and Jack published together?
So we published 2 books together. The first one was The Big Bad Bully, and then our publisher redid my very first book, I Can Believe in Myself. So it came out earlier this year, completely redone, the illustrations redone, and then Jack Canfield added self-esteem building exercises at the end of the book.
Oh, very cool. Huh.
Mhm.
I'm sure some adults or parents could use those too as you're reading to your children.
Yes, yes.
Let's talk about the big bad bully, because
Yeah.
I and Miriam and I were just talking that even though this is October, and I don't know about you as being a parent, but we always look for good books for our kids for Christmas. I know, and Halloween hasn't even happened yet, but we all know that everybody is kind of going to start thinking about Christmas. So you guys have to look at these books. Let's talk about this one, because I know that through high school, my kids have experienced bullying. It comes from friends, unfortunately, sometimes. Friends ganging up with other friends on them. Let's talk about this one for a second.
Sure, sure. So The Big Bad Bully is a story with a twist. We all know about the bullies out there in schools, playgrounds, all of those places. But what we don't often talk about is the bully within. So this book is the story of a little girl who has been bullied from kindergarten all the way up to grade 6, which takes us to when the book started. She's been bullied the whole time, and she finally gets the courage to confront her bully. She says, tomorrow is my day, I'm going to go and find her. Well, she walks into the girls' bathroom, and that's when the twist is revealed. The twist is that she's looking at herself in the mirror. She has been the one that criticized herself when she was little for the pigtails she wore. She's the one that criticized her baby clothing. And then at this point, she's the one that's criticizing her face full of acne. So it's our own negative self-talk. It's our limiting thoughts. It's our judgments of ourselves. That's the big bad bully. Thank you. And Sylvie, this came to me one day when I was having a conversation with my daughter. She was in the 6th grade, and she was standing in front of the mirror saying things like, Mommy, why are my legs so short? Why do I have such frizzy hair? Why do I have pimples? And, as parents were saying to her, what are you talking about? You're beautiful. That's going to pass. Don't worry. She wouldn't stop until I went up to her and I said, stop it. You're bullying yourself. And she went quiet. I mean, kids right now know how bad bullying is. We all know, but in schools, they're taught so much that, we shouldn't do this to somebody else. So the thought that she was bullying herself was enough to get her to stop and really think about it. That night, I just started writing that story because it was so real.
Oh my gosh. So did that change her mindset when she kind of took take a couple days to sink in?
The first thing is I noticed that she understood that. And, and we had a long conversation after that. You would not talk to a friend the way you have been talking to yourself in front of the mirror. You would not be criticizing your friend because of all of these things. So why are you doing it to yourself? And then I taught her an exercise that was taught to me about going in front of the mirror and talking to yourself, talking about the good things that happened that day, maybe talking about risks you took, temptations you resisted. And at the end, tell yourself, I love you. So this is, this is so interesting that we're talking about this now. So this is my story, The Big Bad Bully. I did a TEDx talk on it. And yesterday I was listening to Lori Harder interview Mel Robbins about her new book. And it's all about the high five factor, high five something. I should have written it, but basically that's what it is. It's about going in front of the mirror every day and high-fiving yourself. And she's talking about the exact same things. It's that self-judgment, that self-criticism. We just need to put an end to that. We just need to stop that.
Yeah, because I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she was the one that, she was the one who was bullied a lot in elementary school because her eyes weren't straight.
Oh my.
Yeah, she had visual impairment from from childhood. She was born like that, and you know what? It kills you as a parent knowing that this is happening and there's nothing really you can do. You cannot talk to enough parents or teachers or whatever. You just have to give your kids the tools to work through it yourself. And I told her, I said, who are these people? And, she told me who they are, and I know who they were. And I said, but who's really your friend? Maybe the not so cute girl or boy, and you're trying so hard to be friends with these pretty people. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
The popular ones. And this was my story in elementary school too, right? You always want to be friends with the popular ones, and they're the ones who are going to they will never be your friends. I said, they will never be your friends. I said, you make friends with your friends who want to be your friends, and that's what she did. And so they were like a little team. There's three of them. And I know things changed after that, because I was just like, you know what, these people, these kids, you might have known them back when you were like, I don't know, in daycare or something.
Right.
But they change. And if they're not nice to you, they're never going to be nice to you. So don't try and make them your friends. And she's like, yeah. And I tell my kids that even now, they come back with different stories of bullying, not like what happened to her, like, and I'm just like, wow, elementary school has not changed.
You gave her great advice. And the main thing is that we cannot control what other people say to us. We cannot, but we can control what we say to ourselves after they have finished talking, right? So if somebody is criticizing you or putting you down, I think of, if somebody was to say to you, Sylvie, you have green hair, would that affect you? Would you be upset?
No.
No.
And
why
my
is that?
roots are showing through.
and why is that? Why wouldn't that upset you?
Because I know it's not true, and I don't let things like that. It's just like, it's not sweating the small stuff. Like, there's bigger things that I need to think about than maybe somebody's opinion. That
But the main thing there, Sylvie, is that it's not true. So somebody can tell us something and we know the truth. That's not who I am. What you say is not who I am. So let's not internalize it. So that's one thing. Another thing that we have to say, like, that's their opinion and they're not very nice people, but it's not who we are, right? Like, it's just not who we are. So that's how that book came about. It's more about the other side of it and our negative talk. And it did help my daughter. And I know that it's helped a lot of other children. So it was fun to put together. It was definitely fun to co-author that with Jack. I mean, he's just so smart, so much wisdom. Also in the back of the book, we have self-esteem building exercises for children and for parents to do with their kids.
I love that. I love that you have exercises to do, because it's one thing to read it, but then it's another thing to actually solidify it. And I don't know if you can maybe make something for teenagers, because that would be really good. Because Miriam, what I found with my daughter, and because she moved out with her dad when she was 16, so that happens, right? Like, anyways, it happens.
Yes.
And I was going through her room and I found some notes, and it was, I kept it over here. Hold on.
Oh my.
I will show you, because I thought I was going to cry. And I'm like, how much has my daughter been going through all these things? And I don't know if you can see this.
Yes, a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. So things that she wrote around there, fatty, I'm on a diet. Are you pregnant? You need to eat less. You need to eat more. Anorexic, you're fat, take diet pills. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, what have I been doing? Like, what have I been subconsciously saying stuff? Like, as parents, I was just like, I had my own traumatic, teenage years, and I really do not want to bring it back, and I don't want to repeat it to my kids. So I'm really like trying to be super conscious about, about what you think, what you say. And when I found that, I thought, oh my God.
That's so difficult. That's so difficult.
Yeah. And at the time, we weren't on the best terms because she moved with her dad. And so you can only wait for the best time to kind of ask her if there's still, like, is there anything that needs to be discuss, and just to make sure that she knows that I'm there for her.
For sure, Sylvie. And I'll just say that that's why I started writing children's books. That's really, I feel like if we get to them when they are younger, they will have less to deal with when they're older. I've looked into this so much. Children by the age of 9 have already made up their minds about whether they are intelligent or not, whether they're smart or not, whether they fit in or not. So that's why I started writing for that age group, the 4 to 8, because that's when all these decisions are being made in their minds. It doesn't mean we cannot help them later. We certainly can, but getting to kids when they're younger, I mean, this is one topic, but there are so many important topics to be had with children. And I feel like if we can put it into a children's book, hide that message in there somewhere. And that's really the key of a good children's book author, is to hide that message in there so that the child reading is being entertained, and then they're discovering this message for themselves. That's going to stay with them. So I mean, I can totally relate to what you're saying. I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old also. Those little kids who I started writing for are now teenagers. And what we can do now is support them, finding them good books also to read. And that's a little bit hard.
Good books. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Can I tell you something? Let me share something that we started doing when the pandemic started. This was my husband's idea, actually. We put out, we have 3 teenagers now in the house. So we put out all of our books that we like Rachel Hollis, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. All the positive books, because we're self-esteem junkies. And we said to them, if whatever book you finish, we'll give you $50. So you know what? That has worked. So my 14-year-old son, he didn't care for it. I think he finished 1 book. My 16-year-old daughter, I think she's on book 7. So again, we choose the books. They're out there.
Oh, this is like as many as you can read. Oh, like,
well, and it's
$50.
Yeah, they're not, I mean, it's taken them months to read the books, but they're learning the type of things I wish I would have learned. So yeah, my daughter will be like, okay, here's a book, e-transfer me, please. What other book can I read? But they're learning so much, right? Like it's all those good books, and I'm choosing the books. We're not talking about fiction books. They're all nonfiction that help them with their own self-esteem. A little trick that's been working for us.
I read some of those and I'm like, I don't know what kind of message is going out there, but if teenagers are reading that, they're in trouble.
You mean like fiction books?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fiction, they want to be on social media. They don't want to be reading. That's what we started when the pandemic started and everything was closed, when everything was canceled. So at least they're getting some good things in them.
Yeah. So let's talk about how publishing has changed. Because I love the fact that you're a publishing house, because honestly, who can give up a book like to read it on a Kindle? Like, I do a lot of audiobooks myself just because I'm busy, but I have 1 book for my morning that I'm reading. I have 1 on my bedside table. It'll take me months to get through them, but I cannot do electronic. So how has publishing changed for you? Or are you bringing all the paperbacks back?
Yeah, for me, that's how I read. Also, I want to hold the book, and I believe the majority of children will read books that they can hold in their hands. It's also a very special time for a parent to sit with their child at the end of the day or at any time and sit with them. Children not only enjoy the book, they enjoy being close to their parent and the attention that they're getting, right? That one-on-one time. So yeah, publishing has changed in that way, but it's also changed, like if any of your listeners are thinking of writing their own books, either adult books or children's books, there's 3 ways of getting published. The first is the traditional route, which has always been the way, but that has completely changed. Publishing companies are no longer taking a lot of authors. They're taking a handful of authors. You not only have to be writing about a topic they want to publish, but
Mm-hmm.
they're looking at your audience. They're looking at your platform. How many people do you have on your social media? How many people do you have in your newsletter? They're looking at all of that. And if we think of it from their point of view, it is a risk to publish a book. They're putting out all of the expenses to get it published and then to market the book. So they cannot take on a brand new author that doesn't have a following to market to. So
Yeah.
this is why people don't get those traditional deals anymore. And that's okay, because there are other options. I'll share that the only way that I got my last 2 books traditionally published was because I had Jack Canfield's name with it.
Well,
It would not have happened.
yeah.
And I'm just going to give you another, maybe oversharing, but we also had 3 publishers say no to us, even though Jack is one of the biggest authors right now, or at the time when Chicken Soup was out, because they weren't looking for books with the topic that we had, because it wasn't the right time. So we were rejected 3 times, still with his name. Okay, so then the second option is,
you're like the Jack Canfield, like not like his brother or anything.
Yes, and that was okay. Then we had a publisher that picked up the 2 books. Then the next option for publishing, if you are serious about publishing your book, is to self-publish. That has become so common. You can get your book printed through Amazon. You no longer have to go with a printing company and spend on printing thousands of books. So that is a great option. With self-publishing, basically what you're doing is opening your own publishing company, your own business, putting all the pieces together. So hiring the people that you need. So you would hire your editor to edit the book. If it's a children's book, you hire your illustrator, then you hire a book designer, and then you go and publish it through Amazon or with a printing company if you wish to do that. So that's the way a lot of people are doing it. The danger, there's 2 dangers in that. One, that people try and cut costs, too many costs along the way, that in the end, it doesn't look like a quality product. So make sure, if that's you, just make sure your product is a great cover. You hire a professional editor. If you have illustrations, you get somebody that has experience, because people are going to buy quality products. And then the other danger is that when you're self-publishing, you may not make it to the finish line, because there's a lot of steps, right? Like, I'm just being honest, right? A lot of people want to publish their books, self-publish, but they never see their books come to life, or a child enjoying their books, because they get lost in the middle. The negative, the bully in their mind starts talking to them, or life gets in the way. So then there is a third option, which is hybrid publishing. This is where hybrid publishers all work differently. So my publishing company is a hybrid publisher, where people pay me for the services that we're providing. And with my hybrid publishing company, we help them from beginning to end, and we publish their books in the end. So we're the people that are doing the editing for them. We don't do the illustrations, but we help them find and contract an illustrator. We do the book design, the setting up on Amazon. So I know that there are companies that do that for adult books also. I won't refer any, because I have not worked with any myself. But I just want your audience to know that those are the options now. And if they have a dream of being an author, find somebody that has already done it. Why reinvent the wheel? Ask for help, hire them to help you. And it's so rewarding to see somebody holding your book, and to know that your book has made a difference in some way. It's just amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And then also for yourself, the pride that you have in accomplishing something that you've wanted to for either a long time or just for a couple of months. But it's a great feeling.
Oh, I can tell you beaming. Well, and I love that, because like I was saying, I think as kids or as parents, we're always looking for a good book that makes sense, that's sending a really good message. I don't know, there are times I go into bookstores and I'm like, I don't know, but I don't want my kid to read this. Like, it's just,
right.
They take these, I don't know, maybe life problems, and they don't twist them. And I don't know, or maybe it's just their story around it that I don't want to wrap myself around it. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, there are some children's books that also don't have a message, and maybe it's just, and that is okay too. You have to be, I mean, you should look
Yeah.
at what you're
Yeah,
buying.
there's
And if
those like, what is this book really about? And it's
right.
kind of like some of the shows on TV. I'm like, I asked myself, I'm like, what are you learning right now? There's
Mhm.
like this, I don't know, it's a show. It's about a slug. It doesn't talk. It just does all sorts of crazy, funny movements. And it honestly, it draws you in. I'm like, I've been gone. And anyways, but I'm like, what are you learning from this thing? What are you learning? Good. Turn it off and move to something else. But so now you're going to share with us also some tips on getting your book or getting tips on getting a book to be a bestseller. Now, this is
Mhm.
where, are you talking on Amazon, or
Yes.
is that where the
Yes.
bestseller books sit
Yes.
nowadays?
Well, there's a couple, right? We all hear about New York Times bestseller.
Right.
I'll share that is only for books that are traditionally published. And to get a book to be a New York Times bestseller, it takes a lot of books sold within a 1 week period. Like we're talking
Oh,
10,000, 15,000, 20,000 books sold within a 1 week period. And you have to be traditionally published. So that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an Amazon bestseller, because that's
all
really
right.
where most people are going to self-publish their books.
Mhm.
So the key there to being an Amazon bestseller, and you can call yourself a bestseller after that, is to put all of your efforts into one day that you choose this day to launch your book,
Okay.
and that you have everybody you know going that day to purchase your book on Amazon. You do have to figure out what category to have your book on, which just
Okay.
takes a little bit of work ahead of time. But launching a book, it's not only you sharing that the book is out and maybe your illustrator that's excited. I would suggest having a plan. I call it having an ambassador list. So you're asking
Mhm.
people that you know if they would be willing to share. You ask them a month ahead of time. Would you be willing to share, Sylvie, that my book is coming out on this day? I'll give you the copy that you can just copy and paste. You could say, my friend Miriam has a great book about this and that. It's coming out on this day. Please go and purchase it for your children or the teachers in your life, or, all of that. So you make it easy for people to
Mhm.
share that your book is coming out. What you want to be is omnipresent that day, where people are talking about you and your book, and you don't have to be
Right.
the one always sharing about it. Um, really,
Mm.
that's the biggest secret I can give you, is send everybody to Amazon to purchase your book during that day, that one day.
Okay. So that's it. It's just like launching a podcast. You got to get your street team involved, send them reminders,
Yes.
don't forget, share. Okay. And then, so how does it work with Amazon? Is it also like a certain amount of sales on that day that would drive it to
It
the
is.
top?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly what it is. The thing is that you won't know how many books it takes to be an Amazon bestseller on that day, because you
I see.
don't know who you're competing
Right.
with, who else is releasing a book. You don't know any of that, but you just want to
Okay.
put in all your efforts. Like you said, when you start your podcast, everybody purchasing on that day.
Hmm.
You also want to choose a category that's not, there are some categories, like if you just put children's books, well, there's 11 million books on Amazon. You want to not just only say children's books. Within children's books, there's categories about friendship, about family,
Okay.
about empowerment, and then within empowerment, there's more categories. So you want to go
Oh,
to
I
the
know. Like
smallest.
a tree.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now I had a question. I was thinking, and this just goes back to a couple things that you were saying about publishing on Amazon. Now, do they publish a book every time it's being sold if they're taking care of it, or do they pub or do they print a bunch of books, sell those, and then print another bunch? How does it work?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask
Okay.
you that.
Yeah, so Amazon is not your publisher.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Amazon helps in two ways: to sell the book and also
Right.
to print the book if you choose to
Oh, that's
use
what I
their
mean.
printing
Yeah, print.
services. Yeah. So it's called print on demand, that they print it as people
Okay.
order them. I assume that that's how they do it. They may print a bunch and then from there
Okay.
send. I'm not sure. If you do, but I do want to say that they're not the only printing company. Like my first three books that I self-published, it was before Amazon had print on demand. I actually went to a printing company and I printed thousands of books. I have luckily sold all of them, but it's another investment, right? So
Right.
you do have other choices. You have other choices. And then I would sell the books on my website and then also sell them on Amazon. So for that, I'm mailing Amazon a number of books that then when
Right.
people purchase from them, then they're mailing it to them. Um,
Right.
I'll share also, Sylvie, because I don't think I've said this. For many, many years, what I would do is I wouldn't just sell my books one at a time. I
Yeah.
loved going into schools and doing
Oh,
workshops with
oh
the
my
kids.
gosh, that's such a great idea.
Yes, I would read my book. I'd spend 45 minutes with each group, read my book, and then talk about the message behind the book. So for I Can Believe in Myself, I would actually take kids through an exercise to let go of whatever they believe they couldn't do at the time.
Mhm.
For the Big Bad Bully, I have another exercise. So that part, I just absolutely loved it. And that's one of the great things about being an author, a children's book author. You can go into schools. If you're an adult author, books open up opportunities and open up doors, right?
Yeah.
Especially with speaking engagements.
Have you ever done libraries? Like, I don't know if they do them now because of COVID, but
Hmm.
before we used to, in our local library, they used to have like authors like yourself, or even like a story time
Hmm.
where they had somebody come in, they would read a book. Have you ever done that as well?
I did it
Or
a
did
couple
people
of
work?
times. Yeah, well, libraries don't pay the authors to come in.
No.
So
Yeah.
I did a little bit to promote the books, but I really like the schools because you're making an income from that. And then I
Right.
could sell my books in the schools, like send home a
Mhm.
pre-order form. So that really helps.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I
And that
remember
was
getting
fun.
stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just, it's authors that have a message to share. I think that's the beauty of a book, that you're able to share either a children's book or adult. You're able to share a part of you, you're able to share a message that's important to you, something that's
Mhm.
happened in your life, like mine with the Big Bad Bully and my daughter, and be able to help other people going through similar things. And even if they're
Yeah.
not going through it, it opens up the conversation with the parents for you to have that conversation with them.
Yeah, I know that's perfect because it's an easier way of opening up that conversation when you have something that you can read and then go, so what do you think? You know what I mean? What do you think
Yes.
about this? And I know, because that's another thing. I try and make communication pretty open with my kids and talk about like what happened in school. And I remember downloading, sorry, I found it, but I always think about this. It's like the top 25 best questions to ask your kid when they get home. Instead of like, how was your day? It's like, oh, you know,
Right.
how do you answer that? Yeah, it was okay. It was good. But
Right. Or
there's
the
just
what
this
did you
like,
do today? What did you
yeah,
learn today?
exactly.
Nothing.
So yeah, it's just, and I should go look for that because I keep thinking about it all the time. I was just like these good, like engaging questions that make them like sit there and actually have a conversation with you so that you can get to know what's going on without prying too much.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's just so I anyways, I think about that all the time and I should really just
Yes, it's
go do
so
that. But
true.
books are the same because they and you can keep going back to them and back to them and reading them as they get older because, you know, as you age, you have a different set of
Right.
issues wrapped around the same concept. And you're like, but so now you have, oh, yeah, we're going to ask you, what is the age group that's perfect for your books?
So most of the authors that I work with are publishing for children 4 to 8. Sometimes I
Okay.
stretch that 4 to 9. For example, The Big Bad Bully will also go up to the 12-year-olds because the
Mm-hmm.
message in the story is for older kids. And it doesn't mean that a 12-year-old is going to go and pick out a children's picture book, but especially if you're a parent or a teacher, then you can have a conversation, and they're very they're easy to read and they're easy to understand the concept.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
do you want to share a couple of the books that you have on your desk? Because you showed me a whole
Sure.
bunch of them.
Yeah.
So
So
let's see yours first.
yes. Well, these are the ones traditionally published. The other ones, I have them behind me on the bookshelf. So
Oh,
once
yeah, I
I
see those.
Yes. So once I published my 5 books, I actually started a publishing company, my hybrid publishing company, where
Yeah.
I help aspiring authors fulfill their dreams of becoming authors. So that's what I've been focusing on the last year and a half. And I have to tell you, Sylvie, I have found my purpose with this. I'm just so happy to help people bring that out. So people that
Yeah.
have been wanting to publish their books even just a couple of years. And then I have some people, I had a lady that we helped her publish her book. Her dream when she was 9 years old, she knew she wanted to be an author. And then at the age of 59, we published her book. It's called The Power of One. And,
Oh,
so that's just so fulfilling. They're all inspirational books, fun books. Goodnight, Lena, Sleep Tight. This mom and daughter
cool.
duo wanted to teach children the importance of sleep.
Oh,
Then we have, Alex and his amazing abilities, teaching about children
oh,
with different abilities. And this is a mom.
I love that one. And I think about
Yeah.
my daughter, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, that's so powerful. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And this lady, not only was she a mom with a child with a different ability, she was also a teacher. So
Oh,
she wrote the book. It's a great book for teachers to be able to teach that. These two ladies, Bend Your Knees, Louise, they're
ah,
grandmothers, they're pickleball players that wanted to pass the sport on to children. It is such a cute book, all written in rhyme about the sport of pickleball. So
oh
look
my
at
gosh,
that.
that's so funny.
This is so perfect for you and your audience, right? Like you could write about any topic,
Mm-hmm.
biking, cycling, right? All of that.
Yeah.
They put it
Mm.
in a fun book. So the other thing they do is um, they've been going to libraries, and they bring the children outside and actually help them teach them how to play pickleball. They go to pickleball tournaments and they sell their books there.
Oh my gosh. Where are those ladies Canadian?
They are not. They're from the US, Jackie Freeman and Karen Worthy.
Oh, because
Yeah.
I kind of snickered when I had some clients who like just, and this was, I don't know, about 6 years ago. They're like, oh yeah, because they would go to the Florida for for the winter. And they would
Yes.
cycle down there, and we got into this sport called pickleball. And I'm like, what the hell is
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
so we just like associate it to be with like a senior sport. But then my girlfriend got into it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? She's like, yes, Sylvie, you got to come down and try it out. So being the competitive person that I am, I went down and she showed me the ropes. So it's like squash and
Hmm.
badminton on a tennis, kind of like on a tennis court. So there's a lot of back and forth and stretch. So I'm like, oh, I can see how this would draw in a lot of people, because I'm like, oh, I'm kind of getting a
Definitely.
good workout in. This is like challenging. And anyways,
Hmm.
yeah. So there
Bend
you
your
go.
knees. Yeah, bend your knees, Louise. And they're always sharing about going to, I don't know where one lives in Florida, but she was always at tournaments in Florida also. So
Yeah,
really,
it
you,
was just huge in Florida, like
yes, yes.
crazy.
This is a Canadian author. Where do bears go? Oh no, where do
Oh,
we go? And it's all about bears. Canadian, um,
oh, that's
yeah,
cute.
yeah, and that's his passion, protecting the bears. So he wrote about
Oh,
that. And this is actually this is an information book. It's not a nonfiction book.
I like
Really,
those too. On
yeah,
animals, we have quite a few of those. Yeah.
yeah. So I you can tell that I love this. I feel like
We're
I'm
gonna
living
cry
my
together, I
purpose.
can see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody has a different story to tell, and it's something that's important to them. And
Mhm.
that's my mission, to help them bring that out. I started off wanting to empower children with my books, but I've
Yeah,
realized that I can help even more children by helping the authors put out their books.
right. So Miriam, how does one find you? Or are you finding them? Or are they finding you?
They're finding me. I have a website,
Okay.
miriamlaundry.com. I provide a lot of free content through my newsletters, and
Mhm.
I always have a free course happening. So right now we're teaching I'm teaching a course, and we're talking about the differences with publishing and choosing the right path for you. That's at the
Right.
end of October. The main thing is go to my website. You'll find all the information there. If one of your listeners wants to write their own children's book and doesn't
Mhm.
know how to start, I offer a free blueprint. They can just go and grab it. And
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah, and
Is
it's
that's
Miriam.
on your website as well? They can just
Yes,
download it from there?
they would have to go to miriamlaundry.com/blueprint, and it
Okay.
just helps them figure out if they have a message for the story, what the problem of their story should be, what's happening in the story to come up with the solution. So it's a blueprint on how to do that.
Oh, so there you go, everybody. If you have an idea swirling around your head that you think would be great on in a book, we'll talk about cycling. It's cycling related because we've got little itty bitty kids to bigger kids getting on bikes. And I don't know, I'm sure there's a message out there that somebody would want to read, because I can't think of seeing a book about cycling. Actually, maybe there needs
Hmm.
to be some. I don't
Hmm.
know if I'd do it, but I've got many years to think about that.
Sylvie, I am sure you could figure out a great little story to bring in cycling, or you could do this with your son. Do this with Lucas. Just ask him if there's a book about cycling. What do you think should be in there? You have to have if it's a nonfiction book, you have to have a problem in the story. Is it a child that doesn't believe in themselves to get up on the bike? Is it a child that has fallen once and doesn't want to get up on the bike again? Let him brainstorm and brainstorm with him. You can come up with a cute little story, even if it's just for bedtime for you to share with him.
Yeah. You don't want to know what I'm reading to him right now.
Oh, what are you
You'll
reading?
die, actually. It's The Wealthy Barber.
Oh, actually, I love that book.
I love that book too. I found it when I was 23. So I was like, guess what we're gonna read before bed. I'm like, you're
He's
gonna read
learning
out a
about
management.
investing.
Well, and you know what, Miriam? It's funny because when the kids were young, we started them off like, you have to save money. So you save a percentage of the money, like from Christmas, from birthdays, and then you save some and you spend some,
Hmm.
right? So you can't save everything because that'd be ridiculous, because you have to learn like how to, put away. And so, but he would always like just spend everything. Like my daughter would be like, okay, I'm putting this away and I'm going to spend that and I'm going to buy something on Amazon. And, like, so she would take a little bit of her, Christmas money and buy something for herself, but she would save. But he would be like spending the whole chunk. I'm like, okay, we need to stop that right now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was like 4 or 5 years old. And that's when, like you said, when the learning starts. Not that I started that book then, but it took a
Hmm.
while for him to comprehend you don't
Hmm.
spend everything you make. Like,
Sylvie, what I'm hearing you say is that there should
no,
be a
no, no.
children's book on what to do with your money, save and spend some, right? Like, this is what I mean. Every topic, every lesson can be a children's book. It just has to be delivered in a fun way. I'm not saying you have to write this, but you know,
No, but
these are all great ideas.
yeah. Anyways, so now he's got it.
That's great.
It took years. It took a couple of years for sure. Like, 4 years
Mm-hmm.
to get him to think about that. Like, okay, I'm going to put some away, but I'm going to spend some and I want some Pokemon stuff or
Mm-hmm.
so. Yes. Well, when I have some free time, I'm going to maybe put that to work. But I want to thank you so much, Miriam, for coming on here. This has been a really cool conversation, even though it wasn't cycling related. Like every one of if you're a listener and you're like, you have an idea, and maybe some of our conversation has sparked something in you, you know who to talk to. Reach out to Miriam. I'm sure you work with everybody and anybody across the globe. Do you?
I do. I have clients from all over the world.
All right.
Yes, I do specialize in children's book, but if you have, if your listeners have, if they have a children's book, come find me. I would love to help you.
Yes.
If you have an adult book, yeah, for sure, keep going with that. The message has to
go
get
to
out
Amazon
there.
for your adult book and come to Miriam with your children's book. But we talked about a couple different ideas for children's books. So maybe somebody out there just need a little nudge. So don't forget that you can also look for her books on Amazon as Christmas gifts. I know I shouldn't even say that before Halloween, but and then also go to her website for the blueprint. Maybe just look that over. But I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in today, and don't forget to follow both of us you're on Instagram.
Yes, Miriam Laundry Publishing. Mm-hmm.
There you go, Miriam Laundry Publishing and Sylvie _cyclist. And plus, don't forget to follow the podcast. So Secrets from the Saddle podcast on Instagram. So thank you, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please do, if you have an opportunity, to go over to YouTube and give us some comments, or maybe you have some questions for both of us. We'd love to answer them there. Take care, everybody. Have a great evening. Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you, Sylvie.